welcome to the real first Daily Telegraph NRL podcast of 2024. You had the reserve grade debut of a couple of Palookas last week, but Adam Mobbs back in the chair, Russell Jackson with me, and he's no relation, but podcast debut, Tyson Jackson. How are you, Tyson?
Yeah, good, thanks. Happy to be here and ready to talk about some league.
Well, you've probably got more nous than the pair of us because unlike yourself, we haven't got a fledgling rugby league career going on. So I want to tell everyone about what you do away from your job here at the Telegraph.
Yeah, I play a bit of footy on the side. I was with the Bulldogs for a bit for pre-season for their Jersey Flegg side. Not anymore, but that was a bit of fun. Great experience.
That was a bit of fun. Hang on. We're on a group chat and I've seen some photos of the Wanda Sandhills. That expression on your face looked to be anything but fun.
Hard work is definitely one way to put it, but it's the results make it fun. And a good group of boys, and I'm very keen to see how they go when their season starts in a month's time or so.
Excellent. You also spent some time at the Dragons, didn't you?
Yeah, played SG ball at the Dragons. That was, again, another great experience. I think I was actually part of one of the SG Ball's biggest losses, but that wasn't a great experience. But as a whole, it's great to play footy and it's great to play representative footy. So playing for both of those sides or being a part of those training squads has been a good experience for me.
Well, if you played your cards right, you might have been with Russ's team, the Sydney Roosters, who will be heading over to Las Vegas. And I don't want to say, Russ, I saw this coming, but in true Roosters fashion, they were picked by random from the NRL to head to Vegas on the Boeing 7879 Dreamliner. So
beautiful.
While everyone else is going cattle class, sitting on milk crates to get over there, your guys are getting Swiss massages, heading over there, getting all the perks necessary. How does a little battling club like yours always seem to get the breaks like this?
How does it, so randomly, so was it drawn out of a hat, or how did this work, this process? Marbles or something? Just got lucky, I believe. So, look, I think when you look at the size of the Roosters, back three in particular, I think if anybody's going to appreciate what the Dreamliner offers, 6'7" Dom Young or 200 centimetres Dom Young would certainly appreciate it, and as would Daniel Tupou, Swaliti.
So if anyone missed this, the NRL obviously sending 4 clubs over to Vegas, the other 3, the Broncos, Souths and Manly. The other clubs are flying Fiji Airways via Nandi to America, but the Roosters were chosen to fly on United Airlines and the Dreamliner. So what did Dean Ritchie have in his yarn? Lower cabin altitude, less turbulence, new filtration. I have no idea what that means. Better humidity and less fatigue. So you're getting over there. You'll be straight into training as soon as you get off the plane over there.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. I think there's a gym on board as well, isn't there?
Bowling, some lucky strike or something.
A bit of bowling, yeah.
Dear me. Are we starting to get excited by Vegas, Tice? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's a great experience for the game to go over to America in general because we love footy in Australia and we all believe it's probably one of our top sports. So to get it over in America and to get some of them to see the difference between the sports they have over there is a great opportunity for the game, and also just for us as well as fans, to see how they do it differently over there and maybe things that we can bring into our game that we don't already have.
Oh, it's funny that there's a lot of fans still trying to, when the Americans talk about rugby, they say, no, it's rugby league. Stop that debate. It doesn't matter. It just matter. Show them what they won't. They still won't know at the end the difference.
Still call it rugby.
And they won't care. But that doesn't matter. Right. But I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. I want to see how the teams adjust, because the thing about this, Tice, is that it's for competition points. It's not Mickey Mouse. It's not pre-season. Yeah. And with that field being a little narrower, be very interested to see if teams are training that way in the next few weeks. Yep. Ahead of it. It's just trying to adjust and see how they're going to go, because if Adam Reynolds or Sam Walker and that are kicking for corners, you're going to want to make sure that they get their angles right for these ones.
Yeah, plenty of wingers getting tackled into fences and things like that. Could be interesting.
Wow, I didn't go that far. Dear me. So what else? This is my first day back, so what else has been going on since I've been away?
Oh, well, on Vegas, I'm starting to get pretty excited. But Buzz's one-on-one, Phil Rothfield's one-on-one with Peter V'landys They covered off on many things, but Vegas and that goal of tapping 1% of the US market, like I know that it's a big thing. Like 1% doesn't sound like much, but it's a big thing. It seems. I don't know. I think there's a chance. I'm saying there's a chance. I'm excited by that. I like the 1%, and what that 1% would bring for rugby league excites me.
It took 7 minutes of the podcast for you to mention Lloyd Christmas for you. So you're telling me there's a chance. Look, they've made a 5-year commitment to this, so it's no matter what happens. There's going to be critics out there. Yep. They're committed to it for 5 years to see what they can grow. So at the end of the 5-year period, they'll see whether it's a success or not. The AFL took a game to China for a one-off thing, and the NRL's done a little bit. The Melbourne Storm are taking a game to Fiji in a couple of weeks for a trial, which would be great. But there's to try and look at generating other revenue streams, I think is the right way to go about it. I think while I was away, there was new Sunshine Coast development up there that the NRL's getting into. They've got Gambaros up in Brisbane. Yep. They've got the real estate dealings down at the Shire near Shark Park there. So, revenue streams really important, and the game. There's only so much money that's going to be coming through broadcast. Yep. And they know that that's going to be their bread and butter to cover off on their allocation to clubs. Yep. There's your salaries paid, and now it's time to put some meat on the bone. So let's give it a crack and see how we go.
I think although it's they're going there for the first time this year, it can't just be a one and done thing for the NRL in America. I think this year it has to be a trial. They need to see what goes right and what goes wrong, and how they can change things, because like we mentioned, it's such a big market for the NRL to tap into. I think it'd be a real shame if we were to go over there just once, and if for some reason some things didn't go our way, we just go, oh, you know what, we gave it a go and that's it. We need to try and push for more, I think.
And I think Vegas is the right place for it, because have you seen some of the temperatures over there in places like Wisconsin and Buffalo during the NFL season? My goodness.
Frozen moustache.
You complain about seating over here, but when those Bills fans were pushing away a foot of snow to get into their seats in December, that was unbelievable.
When you've got to call Mr. Plough in during a game, that's... you want to be playing somewhere else.
We'll continue on with overseas footy expansion and the like. You said Buzz, had to sit down with PVL and they spoke about expansion, and he said, look, PNG is the favourite. I found this interesting. He said Nick Politis, who he says obviously takes a great deal of learnings from, says we should have 20 teams. And he goes, you've got to listen to a successful businessman with his rugby league knowledge. We might not stop at 18. At the end of the day, it's the broadcasters that pay for it, because it's the extra game, get that extra fixture. And as long as we've got the talent, that's why we're now investing so much on pathways and participation. So the idea is to have more girls and boys playing. So I like the fact that PVL said that, because the big question mark has been when the Dolphins came in, did we have the talent to sustain it? And I don't think we saw a drop off in quality this year. I thought last season, I thought the season was really good. An 18th team will bring the same sort of criticism. There's not enough talent around. What are we going to do for it? And if they're focusing on their pathways, participation, growing the game, then that will see us in, what's he say, 10 years' time. He thinks we'll have 20 teams, PVL. So, 20 too many?
I think talent-wise, there's so much talent. Especially, like you mentioned before, I've trained with some of these guys. I've trained with guys that are in the NRL now, and I know for a fact there's a lot of great rugby league players that, aren't getting an opportunity because of, there's only 17 teams. So I don't think talent's the issue, but I do think from a fan's perspective, sometimes, I like watching every game. I know that for a fact. And I know at the moment that can sometimes be difficult, especially being an adult now. You don't have all that time. But from the stance that there could potentially be 10 games a week, where do we fit these 10 games a week? Are we going to Monday night footy? Are we adding another game in on a Sunday? Does it kind of start to get a bit exhausting? I think that's probably where the only grey area is. But talent-wise, I think that there's more than enough talent. And to be honest, they probably need a few more teams in order to get the best talent through, because not everyone makes it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I like 20. Stop at 20. It's good.
Stop at 20.
I don't know. I
wasn't asking to stop at 20. I wasn't talking 22.
Let's not get carried away. Let's stop at 20. But I like... I'm a Perth fan. I think that makes a lot of sense. PNG, I need to be convinced about. I really need to be convinced.
Russ, they've told you it's a diplomatic solution to China's growing influence in the Pacific. I don't know how much clearer I can make it. Rugby league is going to solidify that Southeast Asian hub for Australia.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. We continually get told this. I mean, even the logistics about where they're going to be based, where players are going to be training, and you've got to have. I think we've seen with the Warriors during their COVID years, you've got to have consistency in where you're staying because living away from home, 100%. Morale drops, and I think we saw what happened the first season back for the Warriors at home is chalk and cheese. So they've got to get all that stuff right, but. Sort of fits into what you guys did last week while I was away. Coaches survey and of the head coaches and assistant coaches that we went to, where should the NRL expand to? 50% of current coaches said Perth, 23% said New Zealand, 13% PNG, and 3% the Pacific. And 7% said we shouldn't expand anymore. So Perth, definitely the favourite in that one. That's pretty convincing, isn't it? And New Zealand's interesting as well.
Yeah,
because,
it is.
I mean, do you put another team in the North Island because that's where your league is, or do you put it south and try and build it and go from there? Because what you don't want to do is impact on the Warriors they are, because they've just put they just got into Harold Matts now?
Yes.
First time ever. And as we saw back when the Warriors were really relevant the last time round was when they had that 20s team in the Toyota Cup, Holden Cup, under 20s national youth competition, because they could give these young kids, these young New Zealand kids who probably weren't ready for first grade yet or weren't ready for Super Rugby, the option of either playing club rugby in front of 400 people and a dog at a local park, or playing professional in a professional organisation. You travel to Sydney or Australia every other week, professional training. You get that real exposure to what being an elite athlete is like. And now that they've got the Harold Matts, so they're this is a team that made first grade made the prelim final, reserve grade made the preliminary final. So the Warriors' investment in what they're doing around Auckland is really good. So. Where would you put the team if you were going to? Would you put another one up there, or would you South Island? Where would your thoughts be?
Yeah, well, there's been a push for Christchurch, hasn't there? I think who did we talk to about that? Mark Graham, the Bears legend, talked about that. Because you've got to make. I mean, you want places that players and coaches want to be based at as well. That's and Perth and New Zealand. I like the idea of. I do like the idea of having a north-south rivalry, having that straight away. I think that's got a bit of merit. But look, I'm sure the NRL will workshop, and their marketing people and all the bean counters will workshop all of these proposals, unless they just take the cash that's on offer for PNG.
It's not an elephant in the room; it's the bear in the room.
Although that money was promised by a leader who.
Yes?
I don't know. Does he have a good track record with promises? I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to trust.
Was it a promise or was it a...
I won't trust a promise. I won't trust a promise. I trust it if it was there. There's the... do they cut checks anymore, Monty Burns style? Or no? I don't know. But
excellent. Yeah. Where do the Bears land in all this? Because as PVL said to Buzz, they've got to be in the equation to coming back in. They can't be a standalone in Sydney because Sydney's saturated with teams. They can certainly be part of a new team, whether it be in Perth, the Pacific, wherever. So where would you put the Bears?
It's a weird one with the Bears, especially after listening to PVL's chat with Buzz. They spoke about how many members the Bears have, which I found really interesting. He said there's like 200,000 people that are prime supporters of the Bears. They're not going to be supporters of the Perth Bears, I don't believe. I believe that they have a kind of resignation with where their team was. Yeah. So I think once you start looking at different places for them, that massive fan base you're talking about, some might follow, but I think a lot of them won't because, I mean, if I live in North Sydney, I'm not travelling to Perth every week to watch a game. But again, if you're going to look at the genuine options, Perth, PNG, they're the places where that next team is. It's just going to be up to where the NRL wants to put a team. And I feel like the Bears are just going to slot into what the NRL wants rather than...
Oh, definitely. I think most Bears fans, like some of them think, that they're finished, they're dead, that's it, it's all over. I think others are resigned to the fact that they're going to be parachuted into wherever. But as long as they take with them their colours and the Bears logo and all that, and hopefully a deal where they play a game or two at Bear Park would be good. That would be, I think a lot of Bear. I'm talking like the great Ben Horn, our cricket writing chief, is a Bears tragic. He just wants to see the Bears back in some form. He doesn't care if it's the PNG Bears, the Perth Bears, or last time I spoke to him anyway. But just to have that Bears brand and colours running back out there and transplanting their history to their new setup would be a pretty good thing.
But what I think that would bring also with your TV rights, I think that would bring an audience to those games as well. So I think that would be a consideration because. And you look at what the Dolphins have done, they already had all the setup there. They had they have their history already in the QRL, so that step up to NRL, they brought everything with them. They were a really good option to come in, and what they did in that first year, on and off the field, just it's another way to build on that. So now listen, coaches survey, some interesting things here because I'm sure the coaches always think about the big picture and what's the best for the game rather than their individual considerations. So,
of course.
Biggest issue in the game, player managers at 23%, player transfer system at 20%. I'm starting to see a trend here. Concussion at 20%, officiating and bunker at 13%, along with junior participation at 13%. So rival codes, 3%. They're not fussed by it, but is that a little window into the stuff that maybe the general population doesn't hear a lot about, the comings and goings, the wheelings and dealings with player managers and how difficult they can find it?
100%. That speaks volumes right there. Those numbers, yeah, absolutely. Player managers can make things pretty difficult for a coach, can't they? So. You take this guy as long as you take that guy.
I reckon if we did a player manager survey, the script might be flipped and the biggest issue, coaches or CEOs,
let's flip it.
Heads of football.
Right. Let's talk to them as well and get their side of things. But look, this is the coach's side of it, and there's definitely some issues there. I mean, the player transfer system, there's no question that they want to tinker with the current setup.
Well, what about that? Should the NRL introduce a trade window? 37% said yes to an end-of-season trade window. 33% said yes to a mid-season trade window, and 30% said no. So they're a bit split. So obviously 70% say they want some sort of trade window introduced, but the timing of it is up for debate. So where would you see the best place for it so it doesn't disrupt on your club's season?
I think end of year is probably the best way to go about it. I think a lot of the time clubs know who they want on the field, 12 months in advance. I don't think come mid-year they go, you know what, maybe we don't need this guy anymore. Let's try get that one from another team. I think at the beginning of the year they know, hey, he's probably seen that 18th man spot right now, and if we go to another team and get one of their players, he can fill a spot that this other fella can't. So I think that end of the year is probably the best time. Gets everything out of the way, and that way we're not having interrupted middle of the season, getting new players in. It tinkles with everything really, and that's probably what coaches don't want, I think, more than anything.
Do you think clubs should receive a salary cap discount to sign rugby players, one of the NRL's new initiatives? 87% said no. On the flip side, should clubs get salary cap discounts for players they have developed? 93% said yes. Did the NRL maybe look at the wrong tact on this one, the wrong thing that was going on? Because you look at, and I know we need to even the competition out because you can't just have the big four, the big six like in the Premier League, but, Penrith turn up the training again this year. Stephen Crichton's over at Canterbury. They've lost a stream of players, and you go, geez, what could have been for guys that they developed? How do you get the balance right, Russ?
Yeah. Well, at the moment they get a small discount, a really very small one, for older players and then players who've developed. And I think, better discounts. Fatima Kadu wrote a good comment piece on this today in the Daily Telegraph and online, dailytelegraph.com.au.
Good plug.
But just, I think giving better discounts for players that you develop. Now, what is a develop? Because everyone thinks Pro Rugby, they're a development club, but like a Harold Matts, if you started in Harold Matts, like Dylan Brown, playing Harold Matts, you're entitled to, she thinks like a 15 to 20% discount for a player that's been with you since Matts that goes on to play first grade for your club. And then a lesser discount for SG Ball starters, so 19 starters. I think that's got some merit. I like that. I like that scale. I don't know figures wise how workable that is, but I like the concept.
Yeah,
I like the concept. I don't know about the numbers, but I like the concept.
Tyson, this might be one for you. Would that in turn overheat the junior market where player managers are off at young ages trying to sign players and get them to clubs and go from there? There's got to be some flow-on effects as a result of this, wouldn't there? You'd have to imagine.
Well, yeah, I think a discount or something along those lines is a decent idea in the scheme of things. But these player agents, they're looking at, hey, this is from even before Harold Matts, they've got the development squads where, hey, I can get a kid in here. They're a bit shallow. Let's use I was a front rower, and whenever I'd speak to my agent, it would be, hey, where can we get me in where there's not as many front rowers at the time? Sadly, that wasn't the case of the Bulldogs. They had heaps.
You still are a front rower too, and if you are an interested club out there,
Mobbs and Jackson player manager services will take any calls, and the 6.5% to 8% of any playing contract that he signs.
Right, you get
sign here. You can watch us live. We're going to sign Tyson a new contract. 28%.
But yeah, so that's the thing. Player managers are looking all the time at where they can get their players in at a young age, because from a young age, like any club, they want to produce their own players, like what Penrith have done. The players at Penrith were good before they went to Penrith, but when they got there, they developed them the way they wanted to be developed, and now they're the players that have won 3 premierships in a row. So I think it's going to, if we bring in a discount system, clubs are going to obviously try to hold on to players for longer, which then, again, like we spoke about opportunity before, it will lower opportunity for other players. But also, we've got a game now where there's not a lot of loyalty in it anymore, and I think it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Yeah, as a fan of a team, you want to watch your favourite player at the same team the entire time. That doesn't happen. So there's plus sides and there's negatives, but I think as a whole, it's a massive benefit to keep that one player at the same club, because it builds the club up. Like, you look at Penrith, you look at what they've done. I'm a Tiger supporter. I'll openly say that on my first podcast. And they have some of the best juniors and have for a very long time. You look at the best players in the NRL at the moment, a lot of them have come from the Tigers pathways, but we haven't been able to keep those players. If we were able to keep those players, are we in a different position now than what we are? I think so. But yeah, I think there's positives and negatives, but as a whole, I think it's a massive positive for the NRL to give these incentives to the clubs to try to keep their players.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I like it. I think once the player leaves your system, though, the discount's null and void. So you can't have a guy who played Mats played Mats, and then takes a while to develop, which happens all the time, becomes a superstar, and then his original club says, "Oh, let's cash in on our 20% discount. Let's bring him back.
Come back to the place that grew me."
Discount. Yes, no, we're already on to that one.
What about this one? Ivan Cleary finally getting his his just dues. Who is the best current coach in the NRL? 43% said Ivan Cleary. I don't think he's ever been properly acknowledged for the job that he's done. And I think obviously the coaches are seeing that. He was chosen by far away as the best coach in the NRL. Kevin Walters, second at 27%, ahead of Craig Bellamy, 13%. And then Brad Arthur below that on 7%. Interesting reading.
Yeah. Look, I don't think anyone.
I missed Wayne Bennett at 13% as well.
I wouldn't miss Big Wayne. That'd be one that's always at the top of the list. But I think Ivan Cleary, there's no argument there. Although his team's stacked, you can have all the tools in the world. You got to know how to use them. And I think he's shown that. Even talking to Ivan throughout the last couple of years, he's got his head switched on and really knows what he wants to do and what his plans are. And I think you can see that in the way the Panthers play. Kevy Walters a year ago probably didn't have this rating beside him. And that's good as well to see that Kevy's getting a bit of recognition as well. A lot of stuff came out. His own players were kind of bagging him a bit. But he's done a terrific job with the Broncos this year, and I'm also very excited to see what he does with the Broncos next year. They've lost a couple, but I think they're in a really good place, and I think Kevy's great. Craig as well. Andrew Webster on 0%. I think
there's a couple of interesting zeros.
Yeah, I believe hot take that will climb very quickly. I think Andrew Webster will be one of the top coaches in the NRL, but Des Hasler's on 0% as well, and look how much he's done.
Craig Fitzgibbon 3%, Trent Robinson 0%.
How do you feel about that, Russ?
Well, I'm just thinking 3. He's won 3 premierships.
What's he done for you lately?
But, I don't know.
Well, they can only pick one in this result.
That's right.
Obviously,
that's right.
You look at
there. Yeah. Oh, look, yeah. I mean, Ivan's terrific. Yeah, the Kevy Walters, he's doing a good job. I think. Yeah, I'm surprised Bellamy's that low as far as just out and out coaching goes. But anyway, sorry.
Well, that's interesting. And who's the best player in the game? Nathan Cleary, 77%. Just unbelievable. It's father-son combination. What a time we're living in at the moment.
Yeah, it's great.
That the coaches think that the father and son are the best two coach-player combination in the game. It's, and then which player would you love to coach? Again, Nathan Cleary ahead at 47%. Interestingly, James Fisher-Harris came second at 17%. So obviously his teammates love playing with him, but coaches would love to have a bloke like that in their team, and Reece Walsh behind him at 13%. So interesting take on that because, he's one of those quiet types, unless he's won 2 comps in a row and has had a very long night celebrating, and the next morning was talking about Parramatta. But he leads on the field. He's developed from a 13 into a proper front rower, into a designated middle for that. Plays big minutes and just everything that comes off the back of what they can do up through the middle.
Look, that Cleary's not the player he is without Fisher-Harris and Moses Leota. Like those guys are just incredible what they do for in laying a platform for Penrith. And Fisher-Harris is he's next level, isn't he? He's great. So.
And what about which player, 23 or younger, would you like to build your team around if you had the choice? 50%
ripper.
Tino Fa'asuamaleaui. 50% for that, 20% for Dylan Brown. Big Tino. Jeez, it's amazing that he's still, he turns 24 soon, but so young, long-term deal there at the Titans.
He's done so much already.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think he's not even 24 yet. I'm a bit shocked by that number though, 50% around Tino. I think Tino's great, by far one of the best forwards in the competition. But what team are you really building a team around as your front row as your main kind of stable? Usually look at your halves, your fullbacks, people like that, those X factors. Even Stefano Utakamanou's on the list at 7%, which, some of these numbers are baffling. Are we seeing a kind of change in coaching styles maybe, or, change in what coaches are wanting to build their teams around? I
think a lot of it is to do with, I'm not surprised he won, but I was surprised by the number. I think the leadership aspect with Tino is the thing. Less than the position. He's just slotted into leadership so magnificently. And so I can understand in that regard why he's up. He's up that high. Yeah, he does seem like a good leader, and guys that want to sort of play for him type of thing. So having said that, pressure's on the Titans this year, and Tino as well. Time to do something. They speared their coach and.
They got Des and his Kung Fu dojo up there.
They have a great team. On paper, their team is stacked.
They got to step up.
So, a lot of pressure on the Titans this year.
Definitely, and pressure on Tino.
So which recruit will have the biggest impact this year? Very interesting split. Luke Brooks, Jack Whiten, Herbie and Tom Flegler, all 17%. Herbie Farnworth next at 13%. I've said this before, but the Dolphins' purchases of Flegler and Farnworth were good buys at the start of the year. They've now developed into great buys.
Yeah.
Whiten, I think there's some pressure on Jack Whiten. He didn't have a great season last year.
Yep.
And, he had a lot going on off the field after his and Latrell Mitchell's arrest in the preseason. He took a step away from rep duty. He was playing in the 6 jersey, so he'll be out in the left centre role now at the Rabbitohs. Age isn't on his side. He's the wrong side of 30, but you're joining a team that it was absolute disgrace that they didn't make the top 8 last year.
Oh,
They are stacked. There was no excuses whatsoever. They're by far and away the biggest disappointments for that. So, but there's no excuses for Jack Whiten not to perform this season. But I think the pressure's on him to do that.
Yeah, they are a club under pressure. Like there's no question. Like Latrell Mitchell as well. He's been at South a while now. Hasn't played many finals games. But
yes, Russ, you're right.
Pressure's on.
Big smile just came on his face.
But pressure's on everybody there. Pressure's on everyone.
Tice, you'll get used to this on the podcast. And every now and again, Russ's shield of impartiality slips a little bit with his Roosters love.
My only concern is that I felt like Demetrio lost control of the team, and Cam Murray, captain, seems like a good captain, whatever. But everyone lost control of that group. My only concern with Whiten is the old push and shove boys. If Cody Walker comes running in from 50 metres away, Latrell gets involved, Whiten gets involved, and then all of a sudden they lose the plot again. They've got to stay calm, South, because they've got a hell of a team. If they keep, they've got to keep their cool though, because teams are going to bait them. Because they know they can implode. But that's the Achilles heel of this team.
I think they can use that to their advantage though, Russ. Like, you look at the type of players they have, you just mentioned Cody Walker, Jack Whiten, Latrell Mitchell. They love to bully their opposition. They love to, I will never forget, I was at 2018, I think, State of Origin, and I watched Latrell and Will Chambers go at it all game, and Latrell got the better of him, and we've seen him do it. Cody Walker as well. We saw in that famous Roosters game with 7 Symbians, they got the better of the Roosters doing that same thing. If they can ingrain that into their identity, that doesn't have to be a kind of negative for them. It can be a positive, but it has to be consistent. It can't be 1 week on, 1 week off.
No, that's right. And it's how they respond to somebody pushing back.
And definitely.
And that's the issue for them. They're good on the front foot pushing people around, but when they come up against Fisher Harris or someone like that,
they can't go into their shot.
They're not going to push him around anyway. But you've got to. I think if they can keep their cool and respect their captain, he's a bloody good player. Respect their captain, respect the coach, and they can go as far as they want to go.
Tell you what, this has been the best debut since Jareen Buller. This has been impressive from Tyson. I've really liked his input here. I'll tell you what, carry on, you just have some silly little giggle and some sort of nonsensical remark, and then we're off talking about dinner again. This has been nice.
And Reedy's phone doesn't stop ringing.
Oh, yeah. Well, Reedy's never on time.
When he turns up, flashy car of his that parks itself and like...
He took a little ding to the Tesla too.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And there's a bit of a wait to get fixed as well.
I thought it'd have like a little button where it can pop the...
Oh, yeah. Just calls Elon.
That's right.
Danger.
That's right.
So,
anyway.
But again, I like the look of what this could be for the top 8 this year with South having a point to prove. The Dolphins are going to get better. Whether they're a top 8 team, actually, we're catching up with the Dolphins on Thursday. So, yes, they're definitely a top 8 team. Terry Reader, no doubts about that. They've got a lot to prove, though, don't they? But I like that. But we didn't talk about Luke Brooks, Manly. How are you feeling, Tyce?
Especially since all the criticism started ramping up in the last couple of years, I've been the biggest Luke Brooks supporter. I was, heartbroken when he left because, I don't know, I felt 90% of what was happening was unfair on Luke. You look at the games where we're playing great. Luke Brooks is playing great. the games that we're not playing so great, it's not Luke Brooks' fault. For a long year, the Tigers, for a long time, sorry, not a long year, well, it has been long years, the Tigers haven't had, a great forward pack. Now we're starting to build a forward pack that he could play behind, and the first thing we do is, let him go to another club. However, if I'm a Manly supporter and I'm thinking about the combination he can have with Cherry Evans, with the second rowers they have there, man, I'm excited. I think that Luke Brooks is going to kill it for Manly. It's going to make me sad as a Tiger supporter.
Are you also excited that the guy you're getting in next year?
I'm very, very excited about Jerome Luai. Unlike my colleague Michael Carrianis, I've had nothing but good experiences with him.
No, they're sweet now. They're all good now. Yeah.
I think that I'm happy as well with how it's happened because Luai's come in kind of with a chip on his shoulder. He needs. A lot of people have said, "Hey, you're nothing without Nathan Cleary or without this massive Penrith side." I disagree. Look at what he did for Samoa. Look what he did when he stood up in the Maori All-Stars games. Yeah. He's done so much already, and a lot of people are, very critical of him for sometimes no reason. Yeah, every player has their off games. Every player. You look at Jerome Luai and you look at the good games compared to the bad. There's a lot more good, and I could probably count the bad on one or two hands.
Can I just also say on the Luai situation, people have been critical of him calling and hosting that press conference where he announced his future. I liked it.
Yeah, why be critical?
Yeah,
why?
I liked the fact that he did it and announced it because what it did two things. It put it to bed for the Tigers and it put it to bed for the Panthers. Yeah. The Panthers could then get on with preparing for this season. He's said, I'm going to be there. Brian Fletcher had said previously he's going to be there this season. The Tigers can now start planning for next season with him on board and they can all get on with what they need to do. People saying that it's grandstanding or whatever else, they've missed the point of it because he did exactly what it needed to do for the two clubs involved.
And those same people would have bagged him if he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, look at him letting this play out. And
sign it and move on. But that wouldn't have stopped the speculation.
No,
he sat there and he answered all the questions that were thrown at him. I thought, it was quite, it was a good move. And
it was a very good move.
I think it should be applauded for what he did because we haven't heard boo from it since, have we?
It's gone.
He was in a horrible situation as well. What we mentioned before, staying at your junior club. Yeah. The guy loves Penrith. He loves them. I was out at the fan day a couple of weeks ago, and the fans love him there. Even still after the announcement, for him, this would have been massive, a huge. It's a loss for him. He's losing something that he's had for a while. Yeah. He might be gaining something else, but you're never gonna. Forget about your first love. And Penrith for Jerome will be his first love. And, for him to come out and handle it the way he did, I mean, just as a rugby league fan, you've got to sit back and be like, this guy's got his head screwed on. And as a Tigers supporter, this is the guy who I want to lead my team around.
That was the thing, for Tigers people, they'd be very impressed.
Well, all of a sudden, you've got, if you're the Tigers, Tice, which you are, you've got Jareem Buller at 1, Jerome Luai at 7, Api Coruscant at 9, and then your 6 can either be Lockie Galvin, Young Fanu, Jaden Sullivan. Benji's got 12 months to figure out who that's going to be. You've got a forward pack where Stefano hopefully is still there. You've got Clemmer there at the moment. You've got Bateman. You've got Fanua Pole. You've got these,
Justin Matamua
coming through. Yeah. You've got guys like Folletti coming through on the outside backs as well. You haven't got a bad-looking team.
No.
And when you've got a spine like that with some... And the experience of Luai and Coruscant just going to be huge. And Buller can just... The sky's the limit for him.
Well, yeah, we saw towards the end of last year, things started to look like they were about to click. Obviously, I think wasn't our great year by far. We got the wooden spoon. But I think going forward... like you mentioned, that spine will rival some of the best spines in the comp, I think, just on paper. If they can translate that to on-field, I'm excited.
Yep.
That forward pack, again, on paper, one of the best, and we started to see, them get a roll on. When they kind of went away, at the start of last year, they were trying to do this, a lot of spreading the ball around and why do we have David Klemmer running an X play? Like, get David Klemmer up straight through the middle. You know,
X play, technical.
That's what he's good for. Like that, and that's why you know, as a Tigers fan, when we signed David Klemmer, yes, we're getting that go forward now.
This one guy is on this list here for 24, Justin Olam, Tigers. You excited by that?
Yeah, I spoke to you when this happened, Russ. Justin Olam, on his day, is the best centre in the comp. I think defensively in the centres is where we've lacked.
Yep.
So to get that bit of aggression and oomph in is great. I'm a bit concerned about that at the same time, though. He loves to shoot out of the line, which if I'm a half, if I'm Cameron Munster, I'm not feeling too good about that. But if I'm also Cameron Munster or I'm a coach, I'm saying, get hit.
Yeah.
Let's get that ball to the outside, though, because there's going to be a massive hole out there. So if the Tigers are able to defensively be set, I think it's the best signing in the world. If the Tigers, for some reason, are to, you know, still be deficient in that area, in that centre position defensively, it's a little bit of a worry. But, you know, John Morris is there. John Morris, you know, is a solid coach, especially when it comes to defence. Benji has laid out exactly what he wants. So I think that is also a massive plus for us as well, looking forward into that.
The question mark for me was why the Melbourne Storm are happy to release him. And look, I can see that, all right, maybe he's surplus to requirements or maybe he's fallen down the pecking order a little bit because if Pappenhausen's fit, he's your fullback. Nick Meaney moves into the centres. You've got Suafar Logo who needs to fit into the team somewhere, maybe that 14 role.
Yep.
So, you know, as maybe a salary cap move, Olam can then go and then they bring in Sean Bloor, who, you know, I love what he brings to a footy team. So that they need to address some needs in the middle because they did get, up front, they did get bashed a little bit last season in places. So
why don't we reverse that question? Why do the Tigers get rid of Sean Bloor? Because, like you just said, you love what he brings to a team. And I mean, all the Tigers Facebook groups and they weren't too happy when we were releasing Sean Bloor. I wasn't too happy either, but he doesn't really fit into the side. You know, you got Papali'i on one edge, John Bateman on another. They're 80-minute players. If I could have Sean Bloor playing in the middle or a fair amount of time playing in the middle, I would, but I just don't think that fits his role. And like you said, I think Olam kind of just got more squeezed out of that scenario than they were super keen to get rid of him. I think it was more, hey, you know, Nick Meaney is unlucky to move from fullback, but you're not going to argue with Ryan Pappenhausen, are you?
No.
And the Storm and Storm at the end of the day. But hopefully we get the effect that hasn't really happened when we get a player from the Storm, apart from Harry Grant, that they perform there and the guy we send over to the Storm. Yeah. Well, hopefully Sean Bloor performs, but hopefully
positionally it looks like a good
a win-win, pretty much, doesn't it? Well, you'd hope so for both players and for both teams, because you know what Justin Olam's done for the Storm and what he's done for, you know, it was a great Gil Gardner, wasn't it? Did he did this great piece years ago with you know, back in Olam's hometown where they all. Every time there's an Olam game, you know, they've all had the Storm shirts on. It's terrific. And again, that helps build culture and, you know, in a diverse Western Sydney market as well. He'll bring some, you know, that's I like it. I like what it brings. So, and it's not long before we'll see them in the trials. You take on the Warriors first up in your first trial over in Christchurch. So, interesting to see where you are in that regard. So.
Yeah, the first trial is always an interesting one, especially the first week of trials, because a lot of the big players won't play. Yeah. And that's, you know, for guys like us, that's great because we love to watch the new guys come through and it gives us something to write about, really. You find your next breakout star, you find a good story from that. So I'm actually really excited for the first week of trials, not just for the Tigers-Warriors games, but for every game, because we're going to see some people that... you know, you wouldn't have even heard of before and fans wouldn't have even heard of. So I think for that reason, especially this year, so many positions up for grabs. The preseason challenge is going to be one not to miss.
Yeah, and that first game in particular the Bulldogs, it's going to be fascinating to see what sort of team they run out in round one, but even just watching their trials just to see how it unfolds. Whether we've heard that Hutchison's probably got the nose in front for number 7. But where he fits all the other utilities and replace them all, I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I'm sure Serraldo's got something mapped out in his head, but I don't know if he's got everything locked in. And it's going to be really interesting.
What about your Chooks playing the Seagulls in your first trial? Like I said, not a lot of first graders will play, but you play them again in round 2 as well in that little cluster of Vegas teams playing each other. Will be interesting. So,
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, you want to just get a little look at some of these guys coming through. But your 13 seems pretty set at the Roosters.
Well, there's still who misses out in that back line. Seeing
poor Russ.
Probably
flies on a Dreamliner, has an all-star back line.
Yeah.
It's really tough for you.
If one gets injured, it's not like you're going to have a superstar coming in to fill the gap there.
Yeah. But we'll look out anyway. They're unleashing Spencer in Vegas, so I'm looking forward to watching that. So
and Jared.
Jared, yeah. They got robbed there.
That is a shame. That honestly, I think not having Jared, especially we spoke about trying to build a game somewhere. Yeah, it is. Jared is.
Yeah.
I love watching Jared.
Yeah.
I think everyone loves watching Jared, except if you're playing against him. So I think that's a real shame.
Why can't we invoke PVL's tail in May rule? Someone think of the fans.
That's right.
Think of the 1% of US market that we need to get.
Exactly.
We need Waria Hargraves in there.
Let him play. But look, I was saying to Reedy and the guys last week, I don't think it changes a lot as far as the starting props go for the Roosters. I think the plan is for Spencer to start. And that's going to be interesting to see how he handles that.
He needs to increase his minutes this season then.
It's going to be, very interesting.
Not saying he can't, but he's been so effective as that impact player.
Explosion.
Penrith. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Righto, well, we've still got plenty of time to talk about trials. We better wrap this up. I think this is, I'm first up, but tell you what, the debut from the kid. I've held him back from first grade for a while now. Tyson's he sits outside our studio window looking in. He's lip reading.
All those weeks of pressing his face on the glass.
Only because my desk is just outside this window.
We've noticed you.
But you hold a kid back because you never want to put someone in too early.
Yeah.
And, but sometimes when there's veterans like Carianis or Reid or Rothfield, sometimes you've got to give him a little tap on the shoulder and bring the fresh blood in. I think he's done well.
Exactly,
so if you like him, you want to see more of Tyson, hear more of Tyson, let us know because I'd really love to stick it to Buzz at a Thursday's pod with that kind of feedback. So
exactly.
Thanks for joining us, Tyson. It's been great.
Worries. Thanks for having me.
Like your input from in amongst the clubs from what you've seen from being on the Inner Sanctum a little bit as well. So, and we'll join you again on Thursday. We're back. So 2 a week for another 40-odd weeks until Parramatta lift the trophy at the end of the season. Look forward to it.
Oh, Mobbsy, that's funny.